I'd like to call the Comox Valley Regional District Board meeting of Tuesday, October 6th to order. I'd like to acknowledge that we're on the unceded traditional territory of the Comox First Nation. And I will read from the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, Article 19 this evening. States shall consult and cooperate in good faith with the Indigenous peoples concerned through their own representative institutions in order to obtain their free, prior, and informed consent before adopting and implementing legislative or administrative measures that may affect them. And we move to adoption of minutes. Thank you. And I actually do have a little bit of discussion for these minutes. We had approved the agenda for our economic development workshop during the last meeting. And following that, we sent out a letter to invite CBED's executive to join us. However, in the agenda, it had a CBED's board and not specified the executive. And I since talked to some directors and we would like to include the entire board. I think it was staff's thinking that there would be space issues, but I believe that we can accommodate them through virtual means. So I would like to extend the invitation to the full CBED's board, and I will do that just by reissuing the letter that was sent out following these minutes. So thank you. And we're on to F, reports. The 2020-2024 financial plan, the Denman Island Fire Protection Function 215.
Second.
Thank you. And is there staff that would like to speak to this?
James Bast, our Manager of Fire Services, is here to explain this for you and answer any of your questions.
Perfect. Thank you through the chair and to the board. We in the fire service sometimes find difficulty accessing particular equipment. We tried all summer to access a tanker truck for the Denman Island Fire Service. It was in the budget and we had set a realistic goal. We weren't able to achieve that. Since then, we have come to know of a particular tanker truck that has become available in the United States. And it's particularly advantageous for us to jump on that and get that truck for Denman Island if it's at all possible. And I'm available here to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions from the board? Director Morin.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just curious how the truck comes up from the US. Is it considered an essential service, or how does that work with
Yes,
the COVID regulations?
Yes, the truck itself is currently in a small department in Illinois. Our dealer is actually Rocky Mountain Phoenix is the name of the company, and it'll be coming to or delivered to Abbotsford, where it'll undergo a Canadianization. So it'll be at least 30 days in quarantine, if you will, before we're able to access it.
Great, thanks for that clarification.
Any further comments, questions? Okay, all in favor of receipt? Any opposed?
Second.
Thank you. You can see the recommendation before you on the screen. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you. And we're on to item 2, Community Resilience Investment Grant Funding. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair and Directors. And again, James Bast, Manager of Fire Services, will present this report. Community resiliency is commonly referred to as Fire Smart, a service provided to the electoral areas and in partnership with Comox First Nation.
Thanks, Jake. Yes, through the chair and to the committee or to the board. In 2020, we had applied for community resiliency investment grant opportunities. Because of COVID, we weren't able to fully utilize all of the grant funding, but through discussions and negotiations with UBCM, the grant administrator, we were able to pivot those funds to be able to utilize them for a particular program to reduce fuel waste, fuel load within small residential properties, i.e. the chipper program. That we're currently still developing, and we'll have that roll out sometime in November. Subsequent to that, the 2021 application for community resiliency investment funding has come forward through discussions with our fire chiefs and discussions with KFN staff. We would like to pursue grant funding for 2021, which would allow us to provide fire smart training within the parameters and within the confines of the public health orders, as well as this chimper program to reduce wildfire fuel within the small lot residentials in the rural areas. And I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Director Hamir.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks, James, for the report. I really love the fact that the partnerships that the department has been able to reach out to Comox First Nation, and the fact that this will probably serve a number of purposes of reducing fire load, but also helping with air quality, so that preventing people from doing backyard burns. And I'm wondering if this might lead to, I know this is sort of a pilot, could this lead to something of a more permanent program that could be rolled out? Are we renting the chippers, or do we own equipment?
The chippers, what we'll do is we will rent the chipper and engage the chipper for a particular period of time. With regards to the larger question, I would defer to Russell.
Thank you very much, James and directors, for the question. We would like as staff to make it clear that right now we're taking advantage of a grant opportunity to help inform the community of fire smart practices and programs and opportunities and the benefits. At this time, there is no intention of creating a service, but certainly if the board is interested in a fire smart program being provided by the regional district, and that would include ongoing infrastructure, equipment, and service provision, such as chipping, that will require a service. So it's not being contemplated at this time. We don't have that direction by the board, but certainly once grant funding wraps up and is no longer available to us, if an ongoing program is required, that's a conversation that will have to be had with the community, and we'll have to go through some form of public assent process.
Thank you. Director Arbor?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, similar to Dr. Amir's comment. I'm actually sitting on a long email from Royston today that I haven't forwarded to staff yet, because I'm trying to think about how respond and copy staff on, which is very much on this issue around backyard burning. And then this triggers me to think, yeah, I do have that interest, so that I know it's not a board, but was wondering if we got the grant, if we would also apply feasibility dollars, or if that would be subsequent. I assume the latter. But what I was going to ask is, I noticed in the participating jurisdictions that Cumberland Fire Department is not mentioned, and why it's relevant to me is because Royston is covered by Cumberland. So I just thought whether there was an opportunity to connect with them to see if they wanted to participate, or whether there was a rationale why they were not included. Thank you.
If I may, through the committee to the directors, each individual municipality has, let me start again. The Community Wildfire Protection Plan was a document that led to the application of granting these grant funds. If I'm not mistaken, the Village of Cumberland, as well as the City of Courtenay, have their own grant application processes that are available to them. In this particular case, because it's regional district and KFN as a joint project, we'll be utilizing the resources of our fire departments themselves. So just the fire departments that are within the purview of the regional district.
Director Harper?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so just so I'm very clear in my mind, because we're in contract with Cumberland, I understand everything you explained. But for me to have that clarity, basically when we deploy, Royston would not be part of the pilot project.
It's not envisioned at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Director Grieve?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I think that James has answered a few questions for me too, because when we talk about establishing a service just for this purpose, I envisioned it being under the auspices of our fire departments. But of course, we do have contracts with Courtney and contracts with Cumberland and Union Bay as it stands right now as a standalone service. So I don't want to belabor this conversation, but I think that when we after this is all that we use these funds and go forward with this, we'll have a good template, and perhaps we can cover a lot of the area without having to establish a service. So thanks very much.
Thank you. Director Hamir?
Sure, thank you. And just a minor question. I know this came up actually north of the Oyster River with a similar service that was provided to Quadra Island. The finished chips from the chipping program have a lot of value to both gardeners and farmers. And I'm wondering if those chips could be made available to that community for composting. And I understand that it can be a fuel load there too, but is that a potential that has been looked into?
Through the chair to the board, that would be a decision of the grant administrator through UBCM. As it currently stands, all chips as a fuel load must be removed from the site and utilized appropriately. We currently are in discussions with two proponents. One proponent proposes to take all of the wood chips to Pacific Wood Waste, which is a wood recycling center. And the other one, the other proponent has agreements with agricultural farms for the access to those chips.
Okay,
And so as long as they're removed from the specific property.
okay, good to know. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no further questions. All in favor of receipt?
Move recommendation.
Receipt was carried. Yeah, so the recommendation is before you. It's to authorize staff to apply for the Community Resiliency Grant, for them to manage it, and for the report to be forwarded to the Airshed Roundtable. So any further comments or questions? All in favor? Any opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you. And we're on to item 3. Thank you. That's the grant status report, and I will pass it over to staff.
Yeah, the grant status report is something provided on a regular basis to the board. It's provided for your information. If you do have any questions, we can respond to those questions.
Thank you. Comments, questions? Director Arbor?
Yes, I raised that question at the last meeting, and at the time, I think our CEO said you would give thought about including grants that we did not receive that were declined. So was there further thoughts from staff on that element, or whether we'll just continue with the successful ones?
Yeah, for now, it is just that, and we'll consider that for subsequent reports in the future.
Director Frisch?
Yeah, obviously good news. Are there any outstanding grants that we're hoping to get? I know there's one for sewage.
Yeah, no, there's a number that are in the hopper, and there has been various announcements in the last while for which new applications will be coming forward. So yes, very much so. Still some in play.
Great, okay, thanks.
Okay, seeing no further hands up. All in favor of receipt? Anyone opposed? That's unanimous. And we're on to item 4. Thank you. That's procurement activity reports.
Thank you very much, Chair and Directors. And this may be one of Scott Hainsworth's last presentations to you, but it's a very important one. It is the activity report for procurement in the year 2020.
Thank you.
Thank you, Russell. Good afternoon, through the chair to the board. The report in front of the committee provides details and information on procurement activities within the CVRD. For background, sorry, I'm just going to hold this up a little. For background, in 2018, the CVRD completely revamped its procurement policy framework, which delegated most contract awards to staff, provided that they are within the board-approved financial plan. The board maintains the ability to flag a procurement of interest during the financial planning process and request that staff obtain the board's approval once a procurement has been conducted, but prior to an agreement being finalized. The report is integral to keeping the board informed and maintaining transparency over the procurement activities at the CVRD. Table 1 of the report provides metrics for the board and staff to reflect upon. Some observations of the metrics over the past year include the value of contracts awarded this year is much lower than normal. However, the number of procurements managed and supported by the function has increased year over year, which suggests continued buy-in and support from the organization. The average number of responses per publicly solicited opportunity continues to be strong at 4.1 responses per procurement. Ideally, the CVRD would continue to attract at least 3 bids in response to our public solicitations. Appendix A of the report provides further detail on contracts that were awarded over the past year in excess of $250,000. Finally, CVRD continues to be a member of the Coastal Community Social Procurement Initiative. Appendix B of the report offers a community snapshot for progress to date by the CVRD. Over the past year, staff have continued to take advantage of the many training opportunities provided and have piloted an additional 10 opportunities for the marketplace with social procurement concepts included. We also focus efforts on debriefing vendors on social procurement through these pilots to build capacity and educate them on opportunities to improve and how better to respond to such social procurement opportunities. Staff have also updated the procurement policy to include the living wage provisions as requested by the board. And as we look ahead, broader organizational training will be pushed out to the rest of the CVRD as well. We'll be looking to institute an impact measurement framework as suggested by the CCSPI. Social procurement's role in COVID recovery may also present opportunities moving forward for the board and the regional district. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Director Arbor.
Thank you. I note on point 4 on the social procurement possible pilot projects, it lists 3 potential pilots. Is it something staff would be able to share which would be those potential pilots?
Yeah, I think it's a little out of line with what we actually accomplished over the last year. So we were able to pilot 10 procurements over the past year, and those included a range of consulting agreements, a small construction opportunity, a larger infrastructure project, as well as some smaller operating agreements. Tend to be mixed results amongst those. Consulting agreements tend to be so-so in terms of the type of response we get from the marketplace. But definitely the one smaller construction opportunity that we did utilize some of the materials and the tools provided by CCSPI, we got a very good result and a strong competitive response. So that was quite encouraging.
Director Hillian.
Thank you, Chair. Just like to thank you for your service to the regional district, and I wonder if on this occasion you have any significant learnings you might want to pass along.
Wow. That might be a comprehensive 20-page report. Sorry, just let me collect my thoughts. I think just continue doing what you're doing. There's a lot of good things happening at the regional district. I think continue to take a nuanced approach to social procurement. It fits in very well in some occasions and not so well in others. but just an incredible amount of work has occurred at the regional district over the past 4 years. And I think there's an incredible amount of work that's still on the plate, but I think staff and this board have done a very good job working through those projects, and I have no reason to believe that incredible work won't continue. So.
Thanks very much, and thanks again for your part in that.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no further questions, all in favor of receipt? Any opposed? And that's carried. Thank you. Thanks again, Scott. And we're on to item 5, Regional Transportation MOU. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair and Directors. The Regional Transportation Memorandum of Understanding will be updated by Jake Martins in a report, and he'll answer any of your questions.
Okay, thanks, Russell and Madam Chair. So before the board is a brief report that summarizes the feedback we've received with respect to the draft MOU that the board last touched back in February of 2020, in which provisional approval was provided to facilitate enhanced cooperative efforts around regional transportation planning and advocacy. Following considerable delays due to COVID-19, presentations were provided to the Village of Cumberland, the Town of Comox, the City of Courtenay, the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure, Comox First Nations, School District 71, and Islands Trust. And I certainly want to acknowledge the efforts of Director David Frisch, as well as Angela Holmes, as they serve as the Chair and Vice Chair, respectively, of the Integrated Regional Transportation Select Committee, as well as my colleague Lana Mullally, who they did all the work and as far as bringing those presentations forward, and really want to thank them for that. The report briefly summarizes the feedback that was received, which was generally positive, with interest certainly being there to advance this work. And we've incorporated one minor change based on that feedback and are now presenting it to the board for your consideration of endorsement and then forwarding it out for execution by the various parties. With that, I'd be pleased to answer any questions.
Thank you. Director Frisch.
Yeah, well, thanks for the mention, but anyone, and most of you got the presentation, know that our staff did most of the work. So thanks to them. Alana did all the good talking anyways. I noticed in the responses and feedbacks, a lot of positive points, but also some concern about staff capacity. And I'm just wondering if the number of meetings has changed, or if like this fits into an existing meeting, doesn't it? The idea of discussion of the MOU.
Yeah, through the chair, yes. The concept of that this work would be conducted through the existing technical advisory committees. So in our view, it's certainly not a significant amount of additional work, but nonetheless, it would be a further topic on those agendas for discussion by the staff.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Director Grieve.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And through the CAO to staff, I'm glad we're moving forward on this. I know at a recent FCM meeting that this was brought up across Canada, that active transportation, multimodal transportation solves a lot of the problems, and it was viewed as being fairly low-hanging fruit, because I think the general public's ready for it now. Not only that, but the ERTF at the task force level, as you can see, we haven't received that letter yet, but we're talking about transportation regional connectivity, that when it came to Mike Manera and the Mount Washington bunch, and of course the Manera? UROC, yeah, he's not with UROC anymore, right? He works for Mount Washington. But the concept of and it was brought up at our little meeting, that the concept of working in concert with all the other parks departments to make sure we're all on the same page, pathways, multimodal pathways, alternate ways of getting around. I mean, we're lagging way behind Europe on a lot of this stuff. And as also, it has the economic driver behind it as well when it brings people in. I think there was 700 mountain bikers up there last weekend or something in Cumberland, according to the mayor. So, I mean, that brings a lot of money into the community. It's clean. It doesn't pollute. It's keeps people healthy and active. So, I mean, there's so many pluses to this. I can't imagine us not getting some quick wins here and make some rapid headway on it. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Director Arbor.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, my mind's operating on two levels. One is the potential of the specific projects within this. And I'm thinking about Hornby and Dem in particular in relation with SD 71. But the second level, perhaps more relevant to the board here, is wondering if staff has had time to digest. We haven't seen the summary of our strategic planning session yet, but I know that we had long discussions around transportation, and I'm just wondering in relation to this MOU, whether staff has early thinking around how that discussion and this MOU may come together at some point or not.
So through the chair, yeah, so the summary, to my understanding, has not came back yet, but we certainly had this in the back of our minds the whole time. And really, I guess in my view, this sets the foundation for that work to go forward. Without this in place, and as it's been alluded to, it certainly is a patchwork of a variety of jurisdictions that have influence respecting transportation issues here. So I think there's good merit and for the parties to cooperate and participate. And given the board's interest, as they've expressed at the strategic planning session, that work can is certainly better able to flow through with this MOU in place.
Okay, I think we're still on receipt. Any more discussion? All in favor of receipt? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. And that's to approve and forward the MOU out to the various municipalities and school districts. 71. Any discussion? All in favor? Anyone opposed? And that's unanimous. Thank you. And we actually do have an addendum, a late item. So I'll ask the board if they would like to consider the late item, the addendum. All in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay, so we would then have to move the motion to adjourn in camera. Thank you. Director Grave?
Before we do that, Madam Chair, getting back to our workshop next week, you're going to amend the letter to also invite the board members
Yes.
as well as the executive?
Yes, that was the original
The
intent.
members and the directors then, or are the elected officials as well?
Yes,
So the reps from
the full board. Yeah.
Comox, and then also the elected board members as well as executive, what's left of them?
Yes, the full board. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the motion to adjourn in camera has to do with section 91E, acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land. So all in favor? Anyone opposed? That's carried. And we will move in camera. Thank you.